Millions of Americans are at risk of being evicted as federal rental assistance is slowly distributed. New data from the Treasury Department shows roughly $1.6 billion went out in July to those in need. That is only a fraction of the $46 billion allocated by Congress. Meantime, landlords are urging the Supreme Court to lift a federal moratorium on evictions. The Biden administration's latest measure to protect renters is set to run through October 3rd. CBS News reporter Sarah Ewall-Wice joins me now with more. Hi there, Sarah. So what is the reason behind this delay in getting money out?
Well, hi, Elaine. There are a number of reasons why this funding has been slow to go out. We could start with the fact that they had to build this entire program when they first allocated these funds. They had to build it from the ground up. That was months ago. We're now past that point. So one of the things that has been a challenge, according to the Treasury Department, is the application processing has caused significant delays in some cases. And so they today announced an additional number of steps that they're taking to clarify policy to help accelerate the funds going out. And one of those things that they're trying to cut through the red tape with is the documentation. They announced a number of different procedures that'll help folks be able to show their hardship, financial hardship, and other issues without documentation in order to help get those funds out as they apply for this. Another couple of things that we saw today that they're trying to do is they're going to allow programs to advance some of these payments to landlords and utility companies as the application process continues. So some of that funding could go out before the applications are completely finalized and approved, and then the rest of the funding will go out as this application is approved. So that could be advanced payments that are made. And then another thing they announced today that was interesting is these programs are allowed to partner up with nonprofits. Nonprofits can front some of that money should they be willing to take that financial risk as these applications are going through the process. So they are taking various steps really to try and speed up this funding. But you mentioned so little of it going out at this time. Luckily, there has been an uptick from month to month that we've seen. But by my count, more than a handful of states have spent less than 5% of their total funds just from this first round of money that was supposed to go out. And then another more than about 40 states have spent 25% or less of their funds from this first round. So there are a number of different places where there can be changes made. And it really does depend on the different states, the different counties. We have seen some moderate success with some states, one of them being Virginia. That's the only state that has actually spent more than 50% of its first round of funding. Texas close behind, 45%. So there's no real excuse at this point on this saying this can't be done. It's just a matter of making sure it is done on a program by program basis because we have seen successes.
And Sarah, how many renters are facing eviction right now?
Right. So at this time, data from the Census Bureau shows about 8 million households are behind on rent. We've seen other estimates about 6.5 million. Of that 8 million, about 3.5 million of those households said they were likely to be evicted in the next 2 months because they're behind on rent. So this is something that millions of families across the country are facing. There is a federal eviction moratorium in place. We've seen that. A new one was implemented in early August, so that's currently in place. It's hard to say how long that'll last. The Supreme Court could issue a ruling at any time. So that is one thing that they're keeping a close eye on as millions of people are struggling to pay rent and they're waiting in many, many cases to get their funding.
All right, Sarah, we only have about 60 seconds left. As we mentioned, the federal eviction moratorium is in place for a majority of the country until October. The Supreme Court could strike down the moratorium before then. What would happen then?
That that would really put us back to where we were at the end of July when the first moratorium was set to expire. The Biden administration kind of undermined itself by saying it did not have the authority to implement a new one, and then it did. Should the Supreme Court strike this moratorium down, we're looking at this having to go back to Congress. Congress, we saw, struggled to pass anything. They were not successful at the end of July to pass anything, and they just don't have the votes in the Senate with Republicans. They would need 10 Republicans to pass standalone legislation. So advocates are really pushing for a number of different things, like states and counties and cities passing their own moratoriums, as well as other instances where they can implement protections for folks who've already applied for the assistance and are just waiting for it to come through from the programs.
All right, Sarah Ewall-Wice. Sarah, thank you.
Of course.